Hello people, and welcome to Crypto Exposed. Swift using XRP narrative just officially collapsed. Details. Okay guys, let's get into it. Okay, so I'm sure you guys have heard the news. I don't get to record my videos daily, so obviously I get around to it when I can. But yeah, it's official. Swift have announced that they are partnering with Chainlink. And so this has obviously caused pandemonium in the XRP community. So I thought I'd just share my thoughts for what it's worth and discuss what I think about this. So, okay, let's get into it then. So Swift are going to be using Chainlink. So the first thing I'm going to say to you guys is, what you've got to understand with Chainlink, and I will be honest with you, my knowledge on Chainlink is a little bit more limited because I haven't done like extensive research on Chainlink. But Chainlink and XRP, they're actually different because Chainlink is actually a protocol, whereas XRP is a network, and so they are actually two different things in that sense. So Chainlink is kind of more like a plugin to interoperate with other networks. So what Chainlink does is it actually opens the door for them to then use crypto networks, right? And so I will just go further into this right here. We've got here that a Swift is apparently working with Ethereum to do the migration of its messaging system. It's going to be on a layer 2 called Linear. So, I don't know if my understanding is correct in the sense of they're gonna basically partner with Chainlink to then plug into the crypto system and then use Ethereum, like Ethereum's layer 2, to do the crypto side of things, to, use the crypto technology. It sounds like that could be what's going on. But that's just like me trying to figure it out at the moment. I'm not 100% sure. One thing I will say about that article is that it does say that they're migrating the messaging side of it over to the blockchain, to Ethereum. So that makes me wonder, because when I've read the announcement with Chainlink, they was talking about settlement as well. So I do start to wonder, are they doing part of the messaging aspect of it on Ethereum and then they'll do the settlement on a different chain? I don't know, because I've learned a few things off the back of this. So the first thing was, for me, obviously I've told you guys before that Ethereum is very outdated, it's very slow, it's very costly, etc. So my first thought is, why would you want to use Ethereum? I get it in terms of it's the second biggest cryptocurrency, so it's got a lot of liquidity and users and etc, etc. I get that, but are you going to sacrifice that for the speed and the cost, etc., which is really paramount when you're trying to do payments in this day and age, right? But from what I'm hearing now is, if you actually have a layer 2 on Ethereum, you can actually turn it into something that is fast and cheap. So I don't know the full ins and outs of how that works, but that is something that I have learnt. And so, yeah, it looks like Linear is the blockchain, the layer 2 blockchain on Ethereum that Swift are going to be using. Now, as I say, whether that's for settlement as well, I don't know. But look, for me, when I hear this, I just think, I've told you guys time and time again to look at the reality with this, right? To me, obviously, I would love Swift and Ripple/XRP to be, working together. But can we really be surprised if Ripple have outright said that they're competing against Swift? Right? Why would you expect Swift to then use Ripple/XRP if Ripple have actually now said, yeah, we're competing with them and we expect to take 14% of Swift's volume? So it's not really that surprising, because they're not trying to work together, right? Ripple have outright said, yeah, we're here to compete. So that's really not that surprising. And so when you think about it from that aspect, it's not really surprising that Swift were gonna, eventually look to go and adopt blockchain technology. It just makes sense, because that's what everybody's doing, right? That's the new era, that's the new thing. To upgrade their systems. So I'm really not that surprised about this. Now, for the people who are going to be heartbroken about this, I really think it's going to be the $10,000 theory believers, right? Because this really does poke a hole in their narrative. It does, because this is evidence right here that not every bank is going to just use XRP. That this is outright evidence. Like, I think at this point it cannot be denied. And the one thing that I will say about this is, like, I hope people don't still try and somehow link this to being XRP, because I've kind of seen a few comments like that how, like, this is still actually really good for XRP. It's just not. Like, I'm not saying it's the worst thing in the world. It's not the end of the, you know, the end of the day for XRP, in my opinion anyway. But, like, in terms of, like, saying that this is still secretly going to somehow link back to XRP, there's nothing there to confirm that. Like, you've got here Chainlink and Ethereum. That's just something, it's just a reality we have to accept. And as I say, if you know that Ripple have said that they're going to be competing, then what's the surprise? Like, they're not going to use XRP if that's the case, if they're competing, right? So the thing I'll say about this, to me, and I've said this to you guys numerous times, I don't just look at XRP for cross-border payments. I get that was the big narrative, and that's the thing that's really been the huge selling point for XRP, and I completely get that. And I do think, I will be honest, I've said this before, I think Ripple took a misstep with that. I think they really put all their eggs in one basket, and this is something that David Schwartz admitted. And obviously, it's not quite worked out for them the way they've hoped. Now, I don't think that means the XRP ledger can't still be successful, but this is where, you know, the pivots have come in, right? This is where they've started to look into, like, stablecoins, RWA, the AMM, right? All these different types of use cases they've started to try and look into to try and add more to, you know, XRP's utility, right? And so, yeah, I do think they are on the back foot a little bit. They're kind of having to play catch up in that regard, because I think they focus so much on cross-border payments. And I do get it, because I think at the time they thought this was going to be something that was hugely successful. Now, I'm not saying that XRP can't still be successful with cross-border payments, but to me, this is where it comes to, like, what do you define as success? And that's where it's difficult, right? Because it is subjective. There are going to be some people who believe in every bank using XRP. They will just look at it as, if not every bank is using XRP and it doesn't go to $10,000, then it's a failure. I don't look at it that way, right? So for me, I'm not looking at cross-border payments to be like the be-all and end-all of XRP. That's not where I just look at for its value. So do I think that this does have an impact? Well, yeah, it does, because obviously Ripple have got more competition now in the, you know, in the payment space. And let's be real, Swift is the big dog in the payment space. And this is why I've told you guys numerous times, Ripple are not going to replace Swift. It's just not going to happen. Now, maybe they can compete in the sense of taking a certain percentage. I think that's possible. But they're not going to just overthrow Swift and Swift goes away. That was just never going to happen. So if we come down to reality here and accept the facts, yes, Swift are not going to be using XRP. That's okay. It's not really that surprising, because they have kind of been going at it for a while. You've had that Swift CEO, CIO or CTO, whichever one, talking about, you know, how they don't look at Ripple as resilient or XRP as resilient. Like, there's a bit of contention there, and you can kind of see it, right? Like the people who work at Swift and whatnot. And look, that's fine. You know, I get it. Maybe the way things have been handled, they don't like it, you know. Fair enough. That's just whatever. But it is what it is. Like, to me, I just look at this as, this isn't the be all and end all of XRP. Like, and this is what I've said to you guys before. As much as Ripple are like a huge developer for the XRP ledger, they're just one developer. Now, don't get me wrong, they are the biggest by far. Like, there's no denying that. And I do think they have a huge factor in XRP's success. I'm not trying to dispute that. But if Ripple was to go away, the XRP ledger will still be here, and there will still be developers making use cases for XRP. So the point that I am making is, if Ripple was to go away, yes, there'll be a huge dent to XRP, because I believe that a lot of people, they don't see it the way I see it. They do see it as, if Ripple goes away, they think that XRP is just doomed to fail, and that's it. And that's the kind of mindset that will impact it, because a lot of people might sell, right? Like, I've seen some people, for example, you know, David Schwartz has announced that he's stepping down as CTO. some people have sold their XRP based off of that. Now, I don't think that's the best choice in my opinion, but that's obviously the way some people see it. So it all comes down to your perspective. So if enough people think that, okay, cross-border payments has failed, for example, or Ripple has failed, and Ripple was to go away, some people will just have it in their head that that's it, XRP is doomed and will sell, which could cause obviously a huge selling, spree on a big scale. But at the end of the day, if another big use case came out for XRP, it could still be successful, right? So when I look at success, I don't look to cross-border payments alone anyway. I look at a lot of other things that's going on. And so really, while this isn't obviously great because there is a bit more competition now, Swift was always the competition. And XRP was never going to take all of Swift's, custom. That's just not realistic. And this is what I've been trying to tell you guys for so long now. And I hope this has been, a huge kind of wake-up call for the many, because some people are still trying to latch on to this being a good thing for XRP, like somehow it's still tied to XRP. It's not, guys. Come on, let's just face facts. It's not. But again, it doesn't have to be doom and gloom from here. And this is why I say, don't just focus on cross-border payments, but don't just focus on Ripple either. There's other developers creating, use cases for XRP. The one thing I will say in terms of Ethereum getting chosen, the layer 2. Look, I'm not going to rant on this too much, but we all know about ETHgate, right? And I just have to say, for me, it just seems like mission accomplished in that regard. Because the evidence to me was pretty overwhelming. I've always said this before. With conspiracies, if you give me enough evidence, then I can take it in. I can't just take people if people try and make out this is positive for XRP, show me the evidence. If you show me evidence, I can say, oh, okay, fair enough. I actually see where you're coming from. That really could be positive for XRP when you look at it from that perspective. But if you just say, oh no, this is really good for XRP, it's still going to get used, and you're just saying it's hopium, right? You're just literally clutching at anything. But with ETHgate, there was more than enough evidence to show that something shady was going on. Something shady was going on. That was pretty clear. And then you've got the fact that, Gary Gensler's phone, all of his messages has been completely erased. Come on, man. That's not, coincidence. I refuse to believe that's a coincidence. And I'm not someone who just goes into conspiracy theories, but come on, it's clear that there's been a lot of shady things going on at the SEC. And so I will just say, with Ethereum, I think they got exactly what they wanted. And I'm not saying that XRP would have absolutely killed Ethereum. You never know. Ethereum might have won anyway. But I think they made damn sure well that they had the upper hand to win this. I really do. I think they really did intentionally hold XRP back. And I look at stuff like this and I think it paid off for them. It did. I don't like it, but I just think that's just the truth of the matter, to be honest with you. So, yeah, look, for everybody out there, the thing that I'll say about this is, guys, don't look at this as the end of the world. I don't think it is personally. I still feel like XRP can be successful. Now, this is just my opinion. Obviously, look, I'm not telling you guys what to do. That's up to you guys. If you guys think, XRP is done, then you do what you feel is best for you. But I don't think this is the end of XRP. XRP is a top 3 cryptocurrency. It's gone through a lawsuit and managed to still maintain that position. I think that says a lot. There's a strong community out here. There's a lot of use cases going on. There's people using treasuries with XRP. Huge use cases being built. I just don't see XRP being a completely failed chain. That's all I'm trying to say. Now, I could be wrong. I want to just acknowledge that, but I don't see it yet. I don't. And if it happens, then it happens. But, for me, there's so many other things going on with XRP. Someone who I've covered a couple of times recently is King Solomon. And he's been showing you patents and stuff like that where XRP is being mentioned, where they're doing testing stuff with it or migrating over to XRP, etc. I find it hard to believe there's all this stuff going on and XRP is just going to fail. So, you know, like for me overall, I wouldn't say, I just don't think I'm like concerned at this point. Not at this point. And that's just for me. So you guys have got to decide what you think. But I will say this, like, I hope for a lot of people that $10,000 theory can now be kind of put to bed. You know, I still think people who are going to blindly believe will believe it. They'll somehow make this, you know, a way to spin it into something positive. But I hope for the majority, like, they'll start to see, like, yeah, that's just not accurate. Because this is proof now. Not every bank is going to use XRP. And that's just a fact. And that's okay. It is okay. XRP can still succeed even if they get like a percentage of the banks. And I still think there's a chance that smaller banks and like remittance firms, I still think there's a chance that they could use XRP, to be honest with you. So we'll see. Time will tell. But those are just my like immediate thoughts on it so far. So yeah, I hope this has helped. But interesting to see. And I am intrigued to see where this goes. You know, when we look 5 years from now, where will XRP be? Where will Swift be, etc. So yeah. Time will tell, but yeah, for me, nothing that I'm overall concerned with at this stage. Thank you very much for watching this. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And hit that bell. Take care.